Man, I am so glad to be back this week. And that short little clip that we just saw right there, it can be discussed. It can be even debatable with any HBCU drumline that the tunnel is just as important as the drumline battle of itself, if not more important than the battle. And I will tell you, there was so much richness in that clip. There was so much musicality, the crescendos, the flams. It made sense. Even the underlying groove made sense. And that right there, let me tell you something. That was flamethrower fire. I mean, let's get into it. So guys, welcome to HBCU Drumline Talk. My name is Ricardo. And once again, I am joined by my brother in percussion, EP the Great. It is great to see you, man. I've been waiting to get back on. We have such a good time when we do these episodes. Yes, and tonight we are going to be speaking with Tennessee State University's drumline or percussion instructor, Mr. Derrick Greene. And we're going to be talking about his drumline, The Authority. So we're going to let you take over, Mr. Greene, and talk with us about your journey to becoming the percussion instructor for The Authority.
Cool. Well, first, thank y'all for having me. Big fan of the podcast. Like I told y'all before, y'all have helped me do my homework because trying to track down all of these different HBCU drumline instructors can be hectic. You know, we all got our own thing going on individually and as professionally. So y'all have helped me tremendously. So I'm appreciative. So my journey started out pretty stereotypical of any other drummers, just putting dents in my mama's pots and pans. And I always tell this joke, it's interesting that those same pots and pans that I was beating on are mine now. Well, they used to be mine. We got some new pots when I got married. But yeah, they were my first set of cookware when I went off to college. After that, I started playing drum set in church. From church, I actually got hooked up with another marching band in town because the school I went to, Arts and Sciences, didn't have I'm from Chattanooga, so it's Chattanooga School of the Arts and Sciences. We didn't have a marching band or a football team. So I was playing drums in church, and the principal for Howard High School went to the same church as my aunt. So they talked, and the principal basically let me come over there and join the band program. It was cool with the band director. And that's how I got my start in marching band. And then we would always go to TSU's homecoming, and we go to like Magic City class and everything. And that's kind of when I got introduced to TSU and fell in love with them. And I got to see them a bunch during my high school marching band career. And then I auditioned in, May of 2011? And I got accepted, and I made the drumline audition for the tenor drumline, and I made it. So that's how I came to Tennessee State. And I graduated in 2016. I was on the line for 2 years, and then I made drum major my third year. And I was drum major for 3 years. After that, I left the university to go pursue my master's degree at University of Memphis. And I was blessed enough to get hired back on when I graduated. So I started back at Tennessee State in 2018, and I've been here rocking and rolling ever since.
Sounds good to me.
Good.
We've heard this so many times, EP. We've heard this. Just where does it all start? It starts in church. It's such a blessing.
Absolutely.
Man.
Yeah, I wouldn't be here without God. So.
Yes, sir. So, from my knowledge, Tennessee State always has a big, line.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us about, how many students do you have to audition each year, and how competitive is the audition process?
So every year, and I had to think about this at first because I was judging off the amount of people who actually come, but every year we probably audition between 20 and 40, maybe 50 students for the drumline. This past semester, or this past spring when I was doing auditions, it was a little bit more. And that's how we ended up with this huge line. Basically, the band director told me, Dr. McDonald said, hey, I want to rebuild the line because we had some slow years right before I got back. And the section was really small. I think actually when I graduated, we might have had maybe 4 or 5 snares when we normally house about 16, or between 12 and 16. So he said, I want the section rebuilt. go find me some folks. I said, okay, bet. You gave me the keys. You gave me the access to the scholarships. I went shopping. So pretty much we get about between 20 and 50 students to audition for us. About 10 to 15 will show up. And probably probably not that smaller, but probably 75% of those make it through pre-drill and through the season. As far as competition, so competition is the highest with the snare drum line and the quint line, actually. And that's that way, obviously, because people, that's what they see. They see snares in the front, and the quints just have the most drums and they sound cool. So automatically they want to play one of those. The competition is very high because a lot of people don't come in at the standard that we have set for both of those lines. So we have to, we do auditions when you get here. So it's easy to make it into the band per se, as long as you check off all my boxes, which are the 40 rudiments, have a prepared piece, and I may do like a little mini lesson just to see how teachable you are. Because if you're a headache now, I know you're going to be a headache when you get here. So I might do that. But once you get here for freshman pre-drill, the first thing we do before, but honestly, before your parents leave, is we do a drum audition. This past season, I got on the microphone after the parent meeting. I said, hey, welcome all percussionists. I'll see y'all in the band room about 20 minutes. We got some work to do. And that's kind of how we got started. So once we figure out who is actually going to make the snare drum line and who's going to make the quint line, everything else kind of sorts itself out. And that's not to say that we don't have standards for the tenor line and the cymbal line and the bass drum line. It's just that people who come in saying, hey, I want to play cymbals, or I want to play tenor, or I want to play bass drum, they already have been playing tenor, cymbals, or bass drum all through their high school and sometimes middle school career. So they are proficient on that instrument. And all we have to do is now mold them into the Tennessee State style.
Okay, good.
Cool. You said some powerful things there, and it pretty much leads into the next setup here. One thing that I like is that, you know, you involve the parents, right? You know, before the parents can even take off. No, you guys aren't done yet. You're going to stick around for a couple of minutes. But you said some things which I want to really talk about. You know, as an instructor for your line, you have a big core group of folks, right? And I'm sure that audition process is pretty competitive as well. But even before any of that starts, you know, what are your expectations for your student leaders? And what are your expectations? What expectations do you set for the members in your drumline, period?
So, sorry, if I look down, I got a bunch of notes just so I don't leave anything out.
Yeah, please.
Biggest thing, honestly, is pursue excellence in everything you do. Speaking for the whole line first, and I'll kind of narrow it down for my section leaders. As far as the whole line, like I don't want to say preach, but I say it because I can't think of the other word right now. I preach growth. Be the best that you can, not just on the field, but in class, which is another thing. I tell them from day one until the end of the school year, go to class, go to class, go to class. And I make sure it gets really repetitive and gets on their nerves, because I always tell them, if you aren't going to class and if you came here to just be a marching band, let me know so I can go ahead and send you home, because you're not going to benefit us coming here for 1 year or one semester and then disappearing because you don't go to class. So if you don't go, if that's not in your plans, let me know now. I'll send you right back home with your mom and them. Just because that's not what we're here to do. We're here to cut folks' head off on the field, but I also want you to cut them grades' head off too. I want you to be just as aggressive in the classroom, getting your education, doing the things that we're actually paying you to be here to do, besides playing in the marching band. That way you can control your future. You won't be a band major. That gets under my skin when students just, oh, well, I just want to play in the band. That's fine. Not ours though. See you. Other things I expect, just be teachable, be open-minded. A lot of things, because I am a product of this section, it gives me a little bit more flexibility other than somebody who had came in from another school. So with me, I have freedom to try some stuff. Like I can write and adapt a DCI lick like I did with Flammis. Something that we otherwise would not play because that's just, that's not always our cup of tea. But I can do that and don't have to worry about alumni saying, well, he's trying to change the sound. You're trying to sound like such and such. No, because I went here. I love the section. Is deeply ingrained in who I am. And they know that. And they've given me their trust as a fellow alumni. As far as my section leaders, I expect them to lead by example. I don't need to be looking for you if you got class, because fortunately we have a bunch of smart kids that play on the drum line. So they prioritize class, and some of them have night classes, and I try to be flexible as long as I had too many night classes, because we practice at night. And if you ain't here, that's fine. You can go to class, and I'll see you on Saturday afternoon in the stands. No hard feelings. But I expect for them, like if they have night classes, to let me know. I don't need to pull up to practice and be looking for you. I need to know ahead of time. Like my section leader, my tenor drum section leader, had night classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But he took it upon himself to let me know, hey, Prof, I'm not going to be here these days because I got this class on this day and this class on. That's fine. Let me know. Communicate with me. Because in the real world, I guess this is the real world, but like in the professional world, you can't just not show up for work because you got something else going on without telling your boss, because that won't be your boss too much longer. You won't have a job. So throughout, I'm basically trying to teach them life skills through drums. So I expect for them to communicate, be on time, be at practice. I should not be more irritated when I'm trying to fix something for the third day in a row than you, because that's your job to teach them the parts. My job is not to teach you the parts. Especially if it's something I wrote. I wrote it. I gave you the music. Y'all go learn it. Yeah. Because y'all go. I'm not finna write it and teach it to you. Come on now. Well, I can go buy some more folks for that. Yeah. But yeah, I expect them, like if I'm cleaning something up, I expect for them to click in immediately, especially if I'm working with their section. At least help me keep the discipline in line when I'm trying to work on maybe like one or two measures or something. Make sure folks are paying attention, especially if the whole line don't have a part. Or just like, hey, Prof, I got it. You go work with them. I got it. I take care of this. It'll be learned. I got you, Prof. Like, that's what I expect for you to actually lead the section. I shouldn't be the one I shouldn't be the one with all of the passion for you to get it right, because ultimately I've put my time in. Myself and and the other percussion instructor, Kyron Potts, we both tell him we've marched our years. We've marched our years. We've had our glory days. We don't put in the work. We've ran around this field. We're not going to be the ones getting talked bad about on YouTube or in the Percussion Connection. It's not going to be us. It's going to be y'all. Yeah. Our days are gone. So if y'all don't want to sound good, that's fine. We'll just X this cadence. Y'all are going in playing the same stuff we've been playing for the last 20 years. And that's when that pride kind of kicks in. So that's kind of another thing. I expect them to have some pride in the section. Have some pride in what you do. And fortunately, this group of leaders that I've had them for a couple, probably 2 years at this point, this group of section leaders, they have a lot of pride. A lot of times I don't even have to say anything, but this need to be clean before I see y'all tomorrow. And I see them tomorrow. And it's miraculously clean. I don't ask questions. All right, you did what I asked you to do. So that's pretty much it.
Mr. Greene, that was well said.
Thank you so much.
For anyone potentially trying to be a leader in your section, or even trying to come to the school to be in your drum line, you have already set the precedence. It's like a prologue. It's already set, right? And let it be no mistake. And the underlying thing that I'm hearing right now is academic excellence, period.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It can be. One of my biggest pet peeves is people who blame the band for them not going to class. And I love it when they say it, because I love it, but it irks me to no end because I can immediately come back and, hey, I graduated summa cum laude in the band, head drum major. I don't want to hear it. The first at practice and the last to leave. I don't want to hear it. So it's not the band's fault. It's your fault. So come up with another excuse. But yeah, priorities.
Yeah. You mentioned something else before you move on about having, I guess, the 1 year drum major, the 1 year drummers.
Mm-hmm.
You got to send them home, man, because you're not only wasting the Drumline's time, you're wasting your own time also.
Right.
But I just want to point that out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like you're wasting your own time, and you're wasting my time because we got to work with you and get you to look like us, only for you to not come back next year. Yeah. Like I can spend that time and energy on somebody who actually wants to be here and go to class.
Yeah. All right. So going on to the next question. I think you guys been more than once, but I know it's an honor to be selected for the Rose Bowl parade. Can you please share your drumline experience with us, during that time?
Absolutely. So the Rose Bowl, and it's crazy because leading up to the Rose Bowl, it was a lot of hype, and we were all excited to get there to go, and we were working for it. And when we got there, it was just such a blur. Everything was moving at 1,000 miles per hour. Everything was an emergency. I'll put it that way. Everything was life or death, it seemed like. And yeah, but all in all, we had an amazing time. I actually got to hear what the drumline would sound like using some Power Max heads, because typically we don't use those really, because I just find they're not as durable for our style of playing. And I don't think those heads lasted a long time. It's not that they went through them, but it's just something about. Anyway, y'all get it. Y'all get it.
We got it.
Yeah, we understand.
But other than that, just it was pretty fun. I think the highlight was probably that Lakers performance. So we got to perform for the Lakers halftime on New Year's Eve, and it was just the drumline with it was members of the drumline and 4 majorettes and the drum majors. But the bulk of the performance was the drumline. So that was a highlight, just to be able to put what we do on, because we're already on a national stage, but like on a bigger national stage. And we got we were interviewed by, I think it's called Backstage Lakers, and it aired on their TV show. And then we saw a couple famous folks. We saw some players. Actually, we saw the players pulling in when we was coming back upstairs to go eat. It was kind of cool. And you knew they were the players because who else is driving Maybachs and Bentleys and Range Rovers and stuff to the game? It's like, oh man, I wonder if LeBron down there, but unfortunately we didn't see him. But yeah, the parade wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. They toughed it out. It was honestly some students where I was like, I don't know if they gonna make it, and they all made it to the end. Energy was still high. Luckily and this is for anybody else who's going, I believe Norfolk is going next year. Luckily there is a bridge right towards the end of the parade, and that bridge gave us everything we needed to finish that parade. Because you know, anytime you go under a bridge and it's just drums playing, we finna turn up. And soon as we got under that bridge, we played probably one of our most bumping cadences in the sequence. I forgot what it was, but I just know I was like, hey, play this. And as soon as they played it, them drums lit up, and you could see the whole energy in the band just change. Just because you could feel it, just because of the acoustics under that bridge. It was pretty fun. But I will say that was probably one of the most tiring things I've ever done, because I fell out as soon as I got back on the bus. I was asleep, and probably for a good chunk of the rest of the day, because it's in the morning. But yeah, all in all, it was an amazing time.
Okay, good.
That's good. I just want to say, you guys look really good.
Thank you so much.
Proud. I was happy to see you guys, just represent HBCUs at that Rose Bowl parade. And for any of folks out there, I did check out that small little NBA clip on the Lakers, and that was really special. You guys did a really good job. So
thank you so much.
Yeah. So we're going to transition and really dig a little bit deeper. And as an instructor, we're going to talk about your section. And let's take a look at these clips. Let's take a look at these several clips that we have of Tennessee State's Drumline, The Authority. Good work, Mr. Greene. So just after watching those clips, we really want to talk about the instruction of the drumline as well. And I am not a fan of fiber skin heads on bass drums, but you guys have somehow managed to control that sound. And same thing with the tenor line, the leg tenor line, and the snare drum line, and the multiple tenor lines. What type of instruction do you give your line to get such a controlled sound out of each of those sections?
So the overall thing, well, not the overall thing, but one of the most important things I would say is tuning. Tuning is key. I've actually been working with our single tenor line on how to tune and how to make sure that each lug is tuned the same way, because that affects their sound probably more than the rest of the line, because both probably them and the bass drums, that it affects them equally. It affects everybody. You know, I'm not just saying I only focus on the quints and the tenors when tuning, but I've been working with them the most, because I found that with those drums, those tonal drums, not tonal bass drums, but tonal in nature, a lot of times people don't understand that each lug has to be tensioned the same all the way across the board. So I've been trying to work with them to get consistent sounds. And we, again, have been blessed with full sections in both our quint line and our tenor line. So it's a lot of drums to keep in tune. So what I've done, I work with the section leaders on what I expect. So I'll take maybe one or two tenor drums, and I'll take the section leader, and we'll just completely take the head off. We'll completely loosen all of the lugs. We'll do the same with the quints, and we will tune it from the bottom up. And I'll say, okay, this is what I want the drum to sound like. This is how we're going to get it that way. Now that you've seen me do it, you go emulate it. And I'll watch them for maybe like one or two drums. And by the time they get it, and by the time it clicks, it's normally probably one or two drums in for them. And now they can go tune the other 7 or 8. So tuning is the biggest thing. Snares, I remember I saw the episode y'all did with Vince, actually earlier today. Tuning with the snares, we're a product of Prof Lane as well. So that middle C, C above middle C, C5, that's what we tune our snares to. Sometimes we may be a half step lower or a half step higher. It just depends on the day and how the drums kind of sit. Bass drums, I can't necessarily give away a trick to tuning bass drums. That's if anything is off with the drum line, Tennessee State's bass drums are going to be solid. And that's just been the standard. They've been probably the standard in our style of playing for as long as I can remember. Ever since I've seen TSU bass drums, they've always had this full monstrous sound. And now that I have learned the secret and have taken over the line and kind of put in my own a little twist, and put in my own twist, I can't really give it away, because if I give it away, then everybody gonna try to sound like us, you know. But the quints, I tune those. So I actually, I experiment with the quints a lot. As far, and this probably be the last thing I say about tuning. I experiment with them a lot. So this year we went with a higher tuning, just so they would cut through the drum line, and it actually worked out. And I actually got that from a YouTube video from a core style quint player or tenor player. I think he had actually hexes, a core style player, and he was just listing how he tuned his drums. I was like, okay, we'll use this as a starting point, and it kind of worked out. So that's the biggest thing. But other tips, another big one, and I'm starting from the bottom of my list and working my way up. Another big one is I make sure I stress to them that they deserve to be where they are. A lot of times as drummers, we are sensitive people. A lot of times we feel like we got to prove ourselves. Like, hey, look at me, I'm loud. Look at me, I got chops. Look at me, I can do this. But when you're in a section, that look at me attitude really gets in the way. So I make sure I stress to them, hey, I know you loud. Hey, I know you can play. That's why you're here. You wouldn't be here if you couldn't play. You wouldn't be here if you didn't have the skill set necessary. So I don't want to hear you. I want to hear the line. And speaking of which, and that kind of takes me to my next point of stressing listening. Actually, in both of those clips, there are periods where I can kind of pick out where I had to stress, hey, listen backwards. Don't just listen to your part. Because a lot of times we'll just get the plan and getting in the groove, and we don't hear what's going on around us. And as an aside, that's probably kind of the way the world is the way it is, because everybody's just kind of focused on their own lane and not worry about how they fit in. And I tell them, hey, it's not about you. It's not about you. If you ever step out of line trying to take a solo, yeah, I can't say that on tape. But yeah, that part of Drumline was a lie. It's not about you. I want to hear the section. I want to hear the snare line. I want to hear the tenor line. I want to hear the quints. I don't want to hear you in the back. Because on YouTube, if y'all are dirty, or say we go to a competition, if y'all are dirty, they're not going to say, oh, the snares was fire. But dude right there, two from the middle, he was tearing up. Especially if you're not visually tearing it up. Like if you like tearing up an inner beat. Like if you playing maybe a 16th note off. Maybe not even like a 30-second note. If you playing that like a split of a second faster than somebody else, a lot of times the untrained eye is not going to see that. So if you are doing that and the snare line sounds bad, they're not going to say, oh, the snare line was fine, but you tore it up. They're going to say the snare line was dirty. The snare line as a whole. So it's not about you. It's about the line. So a lot of times I'll tell them, because and they don't think I see it all the time. They try to overcompensate when I tell them to play out. A lot of times I tell the people who want to be superhuman to play inside the people next to them sound. And instantly the issue goes away. It goes away, and they looking like, oh, my bad. Yeah, it's all good. But yeah, I don't want to hear you. That's just part of that uniformity. As an instructor, don't be afraid to change things. I get it. Us traditional style drum lines, it's in the name. We're big on tradition, especially if you went to that school. You don't want to upset the alumni base, this, that, and the third. If it ain't working, it's not working. And the alumni just don't have to be all right. I love our alumni from the bottom of my heart, and they are very supportive. But some stuff I had to change. It just wasn't working. Some stuff they changed on their own because it wasn't working. And even speaking of changing, like when you write stuff, don't get glued to the paper. I know we can kind of be sensitive about some of the stuff that we wrote because it's our art. It's our art form. But don't be afraid to change it. If it does not work sticking wise, and a lot of times we try to be very thorough and write in the sticking. If it does not work for your line, it don't work, and it's okay. But change it and move on. Also, let's see, what else do I have on here? Yeah, I talked about listening, and don't feel like you got to know it all. That's the thing. That's been one of my biggest not challenges to learn, but one of my biggest things that I've learned since I've taken over the percussion department. I'm not a snare drummer. I play tenor drum. My chops compared to them are minimal, but over the summer, in order to better understand what they're playing so I can know what to fix, I just kind of start playing around and playing around with some rudiments, kind of chaining them together. Just trying to get my hands up. And shoot, it was even one time I transcribed a solo that they played just so I can understand what it is on paper. So I can say, hey, at measure 3, you playing this, but it's supposed to be that. And then I'm like, well, no, it's not. Well, on the video, that's what it is. And then he played this, and you the only one playing that. So don't feel like you got to know it all, but learn the stuff that you don't know. That way, when it comes time to clean the line, you actually know what to clean and you know how to approach it. Shoot, humble yourself and learn it with them. Like when the freshmen are learning the cadence, especially like if you like me and was not a snare player, one of our hardest cadences, I sat on the floor with the freshmen and I learned the snare part. That way, when it came time to clean it, I was like, hey, that's wrong. That's not supposed to be right there. Mm-hmm. And they knew I knew because I learned it right there with them. Yeah. So that's probably some of the biggest things I would say.
Yeah, you bring up some good things there, Mr. Greene, and really well said. And for our instructors out there and our potential instructors who are interested in, being an instructor for an HBCU Drumline, these clips that we just watched, there's something that I want to point out to you guys. For the tenor line, it sounded like one drum. For the snare drum line, it sounded like one drum. And when you have 6 multi-tenors playing quints or septeps, it's very hard to get that one sounding like one tenor line, one multi-tenor line. That is a skill set. And just especially for the multi-tenor line, the singles that you guys were doing in that clip is very impressive because it's now sounding like just one drum. There's nobody off. The snare drum line sounded like one drum.
Thank you.
Leg tenor line sounded like one drum. That is a skill set that has to be worked on. And I think you did an excellent job with instructing those lines.
Thank you so much. And though I know exactly what you're talking about when you're talking about the singles on the quints, yeah, I knew exactly what you're talking about. Because we sat there and worked that section probably for a good 30 minutes. Slowed it down, put it back in tempo, slowed it down again. So, yeah, I mean, yeah. Oh, that's the last thing. Deconstruct everything. Slow stuff down. Take it apart and see what, take it apart and inspect everything. Yeah, and if it sounds like it's wrong, play it again because it probably was.
Yeah, and as an instructor, that's what you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well said. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Tennessee State has a very rich history. Talk to us about, if any, changes, that might have happened since before you or when you got there was marching, such as technique, cadence, structure, etc.
So the technique and the tuning are pretty much the same. That hasn't changed. That's been our staple signature sound for the past couple decades that I can remember. So that hasn't changed a whole lot. The biggest change is probably the quints. We added those in 2013. So that was the biggest change. Historically, we've had like the popcorns, as we call them, which is just like the marching bongos, essentially. And we've had like some tritoms, but they didn't really stick after probably the 90s, and they just kind of did away with them. But we added them back in 2013. So that's been the biggest change, trying to figure out where they fit, especially in like our traditional stuff. In our original marching sequence and stuff like that, it was written without quints in there. So trying to figure out where it fits, where they fit without overplaying the snare line has probably been the biggest change, as well as our cadence vocabulary. So we have written in the past, at least in the past 5 years, we've written a lot of new cadences. newer cadences. Because when I was in the band, actually my freshman year, probably, which was 10 years ago last year, we were still playing some of the same stuff that they had made up a couple years before, and nothing new was being made. Mm-hmm. So that's probably the biggest change as well. We still write the same way, and our style is really, really heavily groove based. So we still start out with the groove. We may add some different type of chops on there, but we still, at the end of the day, will sound like Tennessee State.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, and you said something, Mr. Greene. You guys are really heavy bass grooved, right? Mm-hmm. Really, really groove. Hey guys, check this out real quick. Yeah, sounds pretty good to me. Yeah, that's that groove that he's talking about there. Yep, so, yep. One thing that we want to do, Mr. Greene, is this: you're well established. Your drum line is the truth. I'm not gonna lie, it's the truth.
Well, appreciate it.
Who is you guys' biggest rivalry that you, when you go up against, you're like, man, we're extra practice this week.
Honestly, given our schedule, anybody we can see.
Everybody gets it, right?
Everybody. Because we don't get to see a lot of HBCUs because of the conference that we're in. Yeah. So anytime we can get some action, we going at it. Whether it was Grambling this year or historically, or I guess it is historically technically now, because of the news that just came out. Traditionally, it was Jackson, because we knew hell or high water, we was going to see Jackson every year. Yeah. And now it's kind of messed up that we probably won't see them next year. But so I guess if we were thinking about it that way, probably Jackson would be our rival, because we knew we were going to see them every year. So, yeah. And anybody else that we would be able to see, like I think we played Valley my first year, or that might have been my second year in 19 for the John Merritt. And then this year we played Grambling for our first game. So anybody we can see is, we coming with it, because we don't get this chance. So we gonna leave it all in the stands, on the field, wherever.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. So we're coming up on, I guess, year 3 of this pandemic. How has it affected your line, I guess, in the past 2 years? Did it help? Did it hurt?
So it's honestly helped. We grew a lot during the pandemic. We were on track to becoming the biggest section in probably TSU history in 2020. So that first year of the pandemic, maybe 2020, 2021-ish. No, that was 2020, yeah. So we were on track to becoming the biggest section in TSU history. And then we actually passed that this past year in 2021 with, I think originally we had about 63 members of the section. And now we sit at around 52, wow. I believe, between 50 and 52. So we had a few drop off, but all in all, we've been going pretty strong during the pandemic. And since we haven't been going to football games and having to have prepared for like field shows and stuff, it's given us a chance to try some different stuff. Like Flammis came out of the pandemic because I just wanted to try something. I knew we weren't going to see anybody. I was like, this might not make it out, but everybody's, like all these core style chops. And you rarely see somebody who does what we do, the way we do it, play stuff like that. So I was like, well, we're going to put our spin on it. Or I'll take like a groove from a song and try to write a cadence out of it. Like it's giving us time to try some stuff and to make some new stuff. Honestly, we recorded 2 albums. That came out of the pandemic, just to give the kids something to do, and to give them something to practice for. So that was a cool thing. And we released them on the band SoundCloud, and all of that was done in the house. So that also gave me a chance to work with some of our commercial music majors who, and anybody else, because we got a lot of folks on the Drumline who like to produce and make beats and such like that. So they gave them opportunity to learn about recording technology, to learn about mics and mic placement and everything like that, and what DAW I was using and such. So that was a cool experience. So all in all, I think the pandemic helped us. I hate that it happened, but we came out better because of it.
Good for you. Good for you. So we're pretty much coming to a close, Mr. Greene. So we know that you're great with the authority, right? We know you're that guy when it comes to the authority, right? So take a step back, right? And this is nothing against the school that you're with right now. Mm-hmm. In the HBCU world, if you can get your hands on any drumline in the HBCU drumline world, who would it be and why?
Okay. I had two, but you said HBCU Drumline. So starting with the HBCU first, I would probably go with Cookman, because they have, and actually after talking to Prof. Ore as to why they have so much going on, I can kind of dig it. They have a lot of sounds going on, and me just being an actual concert percussionist as well, like I love all of the sounds, and I play drum set too, so the more the better. The more stuff to hit, the better. So yeah, probably Cookman. Just A, to experiment, and B, I want to see what they sound like playing some Tennessee State-esque material, and kind of putting their spin on it as well.
Good. But you said you had two.
Yeah. So outside of the HBCU world, one of my favorite bands to see every year whenever we would go down there was Jacksonville State, down there in Alabama. They are amazing. And I like them not just because they're clean. I like them because they don't back down from nobody. That's band, that's drumline. You step to them, they coming with it. And it's interesting. I actually just saw a clip of them battling Talladega. Like, I know that's an old video, but I just had never sat down and watched it. I was like, yeah, they coming with it. Yeah. Cause us, we like, Talladega gonna run them. They don't do what we do. No, Jacksonville was coming with it. They was throwing some stuff at them. Yeah. I'm like, okay. So yeah, I would love to just try to put my spin on some of the stuff they do.
Okay, good. All right, so coming up on the last question, this is something we never asked anyone before, kind of a fun question.
I bet.
If you had your chance to make a super line, which subsection from any school would it be? So for instance, NSU snares, VSU basses, BCU quints, etc. If you make a super line, where would the subsections come from?
So I've been thinking about this all day. So starting from the bass drums, I gotta keep TSU basses. Okay. But I would honestly, with all of these, I had a hard time kind of throwing away, well, not necessarily throwing away, doing away with my section. So I kind of just augmented my section to make a huge section. So I got TSU basses with Norfolk's bass line. Them folks cold, and they be playing some stuff cold. I will augment Quint line with Bethune-Cookman, again, cold. I remember watching a video of one of their Quint players had a GoPro on at Honda. I was just watching some of the stuff that they were playing. I was like, yeah. Like, you would never know that they was playing all that stuff until you saw it. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm here. So this one, tenor drum section. So I would mix hours with old Morris Brown. So like Morris Brown from the early 2000s. I would mix that. As far as snares, it's a mix of three schools. So I got BCU, TSU, and maybe Jackson. Okay. So we got the swag, and then we got the other cowbell sounds and everything too. Yeah. I just love those extra colors. And then, of course, if they got cowbells and tambourines, they won't be opposed to me putting like a hi-hat or something on there, or like a stack or something like that on one of the drums. I mean, you already got the mount. Why not?
Yeah.
And as far as cymbals, so this is a mix of 4 schools. So I got TSU, Southern, ASU, and Alabama A&M. TSU, just because I love them, those my folks. Southern, historically cold. And honestly, ASU and Alabama A&M, when we would go to the Magic City Classic, like they were going at it. Like I loved everything that they were doing. Like they have been amazing as long as I've watched them. Yeah. So yeah, that would be my cymbal section. I like a lot of cymbals, so I like just coming down the street and all you see is bronze in the air, reflecting off the sun. I like that. So.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Cool. That's a nice super line that you built there.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, Mr. Greene. So this has been really enjoyable for us. We enjoy you coming on, speaking with us, and really just talking about what you do at Tennessee State University with the authority. And like I said, this is not about us. It's about the culture, as my good friend EP the Great would say in the closing. And but before we go, we always like to ask our guests to come on. Do you have your sticks there?
Let's see.
Uh-oh.
I actually do.
Okay, great. Could you show us something real quick? Anything
I'm gonna try.
that you like.
Again, I am not a snare drummer by trade, but I can hook some rudiments together.
Hey, man, whatever you got.
Let me get some space. Office ain't that big. Let's see what I got. Again, not a snare drummer.
Hey, it's clean. It's clean to me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Sounds clean to me.
Yeah. So thank you once again.
Man, I appreciate y'all so much.
Yeah, you
All
do.
right, we'll come to an end. But before I do my closing, I just want to shout out Vince.
Absolutely.
Going through a difficult time right now. Just let him know we all here for him.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love you, bro.
Yes.
Praying for you, definitely.
Yeah. But I want to thank Mr. Greene for taking time out this day. Busy schedule to come on our cast.
Thank y'all for having me.
Follow us, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio. Hit the like button, share. And like my boy Rick already said, it's about the culture. It's not about us. But till next time, y'all have a good night.
All right.
You guys be safe. Have a good evening. See you next time.